If you ask a prepper, what do they pride themselves on? Very frequently, you're going to get an answer that has something to do with resiliency. The ability to just take whatever life throws at them and overcome it. If life gives them lemons, they know how to make lemonade. They have a plan for everything. Whatever life has in store, they're ready for it. Which is kind of interesting because if you think about everyday, normal, day-to-day life, there's an awful lot of preppers who are having a lot of trouble dealing with just regular day-to-day life. If you think about the big challenges that most of us face on a day-to-day basis, there are things like health and fitness, interacting with other people, creating strong bonds, networking with people, finances. Finances are a big one. These are the types of things that are like the big challenges just during everyday, day-to-day life, and yet people who pride themselves on being ready for anything don't seem quite frequently to be ready for even the basic stuff that life throws at us. Now, I've made several videos in the past on health and fitness and on interacting with other people, two super important topics, two topics that are very uninteresting to most people. And in this video, I'm going to round out the trifecta, and we're going to talk about the worst of the worst when it comes to being boring: finances. And now is your last chance to stop this video before you might accidentally learn something that could save you thousands of dollars.
Better believe in your mind, 'cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything.
Hey everybody, this is Praxis. Now, there are a ton of channels here on YouTube that devote themselves entirely to the topic of personal finance, and there are a lot of great ones out there. In fact, one that's hosted by a fellow prepper is hosted by Prepper Princess, and she's always having great tips on her channel. If you haven't ever checked it out before, I'd highly recommend that you do. In this video, what I want to do, though, is I want to focus on two core concepts: the concept of waste reduction and the concept of investments that pay you back. Now, why did I choose these particular two strategies? Well, both of them, waste management and the idea of investing energy that is going to be released back to give you benefit in the future, are both key skill sets when it comes to being a prepper. In an emergency situation, you don't want to be wasting resources, so getting good at not wasting is a prepper skill in itself. And in the same way, investing towards something that's going to pay you back in the future, such as a tool or some kind of a system, is a basic idea of preparing for the future. You're putting your investment out into the future with the idea that it's going to pay you back more over time. So both of these strategies not only are good for finances, they're also both fundamental concepts that are key to being a successful prepper. First, let's start with the topic of investments that pay you back. Behind me right here is a solar panel. There are solar panels all over my house, and this is an enormously beneficial investment that pays me back on a constant basis. I spent just a little over $20,000 for all of the solar equipment here on my house. And that sounds like a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But what's important isn't so much what the initial investment is. What's important is what it gives you back. And every single year, this solar electric system provides me with at least, I've done rough numbers on it, at least $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year. That means after maybe about 6 years of running this system, it doesn't matter how much I spent on it because I would have spent that money anyway on the electricity that I ended up not needing to buy because of the system. And every year after that 6-year mark is just free electricity every single year. I have neighbors that are always talking about the cost of electricity. Quite frequently I'll hear from people that have really big bills, $500, $600, $700. Some of these people have rather large houses or they might have farm operations. But people pay an enormous amount of money for electricity. On average here in the United States, the average monthly expenditure on electricity is somewhere between $150 and $350. My average expenditure on electricity averaged out over the entire year is like, I don't know, 15 bucks, something like that, somewhere between $10 and $20. All summer, it is nothing. Essentially, I never need to pay anything for electricity. During the winter, on a day like this, it's kind of overcast today. We ran most of the day today on the solar electric system, but as it got kind of towards the end of the day, I flipped this back onto grid power. So for the end of the day, we're just kind of charging up our batteries right now, and then a little after dinner, for the rest of the night, I'll just switch us back to batteries, and tomorrow it's supposed to be sunny again. So even though it was a cloudy day today, only maybe 3 hours, 4 hours or so are going to be spent on grid, and all the rest of it comes absolutely free from the sun. Solar power is a great investment that just pays you back and pays you back. That is one of the great things that you can do with your money, is if you take your money and use it to build things or create things for yourself, they're going to save you more money in the future. And that is a way of taking your money and using it to work for you, as opposed to constantly having to work for more and more money. Another great way of stabilizing your finances is by cutting out waste. And one great way of doing that is with a fuel-efficient vehicle. This is a Toyota Prius. I've been driving these types of cars since when they first came out. I gotta be honest with you, once you get used to driving a vehicle that can go 60 miles on 1 gallon of gasoline, it becomes pretty addictive when you go to the gas pump and you hardly have to pay anything for what you're getting in return. The average car in the American fleet gets about somewhere around 20 miles to the gallon. Again, this gets about 60 miles to the gallon. So for the average person, if they buy a gallon of gasoline, they can drive about 20 miles on that. For me, I buy that same gallon of gasoline, I pay the same amount as them, but I don't just get 20 miles, I can drive almost 60 miles on that same amount. Another way of putting that is that every time you spend $3 for gasoline, I only spend $1, and those other $2 I can save and use for other things. Now that might get you thinking, well, that's all great, except you have to pay so much for these vehicles. Well, not so much. The average vehicle bought new in the United States this year is crazy expensive, somewhere around $45,000. The average Prius that you buy, same year, brand new, somewhere around $30,000. So that is a 33% savings right off the bat. Now, the other reaction a lot of people are going to have is, well, yeah, that's great, but you can't do as much with a Prius as you can with a truck. And to that I would say, okay, fair enough. I've built a number of houses and I'm always hauling lumber in my vehicle. And yeah, there's only so much lumber and bags of concrete and cinder blocks that you can pile into a Prius. But that said, most of the time when I'm driving around, I'm not carrying an enormous amount of supplies with me. On the small number of occasions when I did need to carry more than my Prius could accommodate, I rented a truck. It's really not that difficult. Buying a new car or setting up a whole house solar electric system, those are both really big investments. Let's talk about a couple of much smaller investments that can also save you an awful lot of money. And yes, I'm shooting this on a different day, and I'm hoping that the incredibly cold atmosphere out here is going to speed me up so I don't waste another critical resource, which is your time. On my list, which I have to help my brain, I have first on there is a bidet. A bidet is something that we got into several years ago, and I absolutely love it. Not only is it a lot more comfortable for cleaning yourself up after you use the bathroom, it also saves an enormous amount of money in toilet paper. Yes, you have to pay for the bidet right off the bat, but that probably only costs about as much as maybe a year's worth of toilet paper, and after that you never have to buy toilet paper again. I find that it is not only a great addition to our life here at our house, but it also saves us an awful lot of money. Next on my list is clothes drying. Drying clothes with electricity is a huge load, and if you're buying your electricity, it can be a pretty big part of your electric bill. If you change to drying your clothes using a drying rack in your house, not only is it going to save you an awful lot of money, but in the wintertime, quite frequently, people will have issues with the air in a house being too dry. They'll quite frequently run humidifiers that use electricity in and of themselves. If you are drying your clothes in your house, it adds humidity to the air, so you don't have to be running a separate electric humidifier to humidify the air. So you get both benefits essentially for free, canceling each other out. You get free clothes drying and you get free humidifying. Next on my list is a small scale solar electric system. You don't have to change over your entire house to be all on solar power in order to benefit from it. You can get smaller systems that could just run part of your house, say just an electric refrigerator. In fact, that's a really great way to start. Just get a small solar electric system, plug in just one device. I think a refrigerator is a pretty good candidate for it because the electrical use is pretty consistent throughout the year as this thing is running. So it's kind of easy to size the system. Get a smaller system, and immediately, as soon as you plug in your refrigerator, every single electric bill from that day forward is going to be reduced by the amount of whatever your refrigerator's electrical footprint used to be. So just setting up a small system can be a great way of kind of tiptoeing into it, and you can set up multiple systems throughout your house covering all sorts of different needs that you have in your house, and piece by piece you can kind of nibble away at your electric bill, not taking your whole house off grid all at once, but taking just parts of it off grid. The last thing I have on here is the idea of plugging in timers to things. Hot water for heating for showers and domestic use is a great candidate for this. Here at our house, we normally just use hot water a little bit to wash dishes, but mostly just for bathing at the end of the day. It occurred to me quite a while ago, because I was on a solar electric system, that it was kind of silly to have my hot water tank trying to heat water after people took showers at the end of the day, because there's no sun at the end of the day, so there was no electricity for doing that service. And on top of that, after people take showers, you don't need to heat the water right away, because people aren't likely going to be using an awful lot of hot water until the next day. So we set up a timer on our house. Not only does it allow us to focus the time when the water is being heated to when we have plenty of sun and we can do it for free, but even if you were on grid power, having your hot water system on a timer is a great idea, because there's no reason to have all the water in your tank hot all the time. If you can just get it ready several hours ahead of when you're going to need it, and then use the hot water, and then the tank sits at kind of a lower temperature for much of the day, you're not losing as much energy out of that tank, because you get the most efficient transfer of thermal energy when there are the biggest temperature differentials between the outside environment and the inside environment of a tank. So if you can keep the tank for most of the day at kind of a lower temperature, it's not going to be as efficient at losing heat to the outside environment. So you're going to overall be using less electricity, because you're losing less to just waste heat during the day. Putting timers on all sorts of things throughout your house is another great way of focusing the energy to where you need it, when you need it, and not having a lot of waste. I hope you found this video helpful. I'm starting to lose feeling in my fingers right now. It's 20 degrees outside with 30-mile-an-hour winds with gusts up to 60 miles an hour. It's a pretty cold day today, and I'm going to head back inside and sit next to my nice warm wood stove, where I'm able to heat my entire house for free using wood that I just gathered from the woods around my house. That's another great way of saving energy, is heating with wood. I absolutely love wood, and I've done whole videos on it, and I'm not going to talk any more about it right now, because I want to get inside and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.